Yeah, that's pretty much Left Alive in a nutshell. I was really looking forward to this game. It showed some interesting ideas, but just like that guy over there, it has no backbone to support itself. Now, stay low to the ground and load your gun, cause this is going to be a rough one. Left Alive is set in 2127, where the world divided itself into economic blocks rather than states. Of course, the world is not at peace and these major powers still fight each other, but instead of all open war, they resort to proxy wars. The story of Left Alive takes place in Nova Slava, a border city that gets caught up in one of these proxy wars. You play as 3 characters that are in Nova Slava during the beginning of the invasion. With all odds stacked against them, they have to manage to survive while the enemy hunts them down. What many people don't seem to know is that Left Alive is a spin-off from the Front Mission series. However, it's not a must to know or play the Front Mission series to understand the plot and the setting of Left Alive. The story foundation is really good for a stealth action game, sneaking through a war-damaged city, crawling with enemies, gather resources and make gadgets to greater your odds of survival. Sometimes even going on the offensive by sabotaging the enemies by setting up traps. These 3 character storylines are separated at first, but they slowly merge and come together as you progress through the game. You will make choices with these characters that will affect the outcome of the story. These are great ideas for this kind of game, but unfortunately those ideas are executed terribly, making this game a waste of potential. The game starts with the same cutscene as the trailer, which is fine, but there is no cutscene that really connects or introduces you properly to your first moment in the game. The first character you play as is Mikhail, who is a rookie mech pilot. I expected Mikhail to be a well-trained and skilled soldier. I mean, logically speaking, they won't let anybody become a pilot of these machines of destruction, right? But no, Mikhail talks and acts like he never had any training or even has remotely an idea what being a soldier is all about. At the end of the tutorial, you find a commander officer dying and he has to explain to him what being a soldier is all about. And the worst thing is that his character isn't bad because I made certain dialogue choices. No, this is how he's been written as a default character. The only fun thing about his character is that you can make him even look worse with certain dialogue choices. Even though those choices do not matter, as the result will be the same no matter what you pick. At that moment I started to suspect that this whole choices shape the story has been added very late in development. The lines of dialogue you choose at certain moments aren't even voice acted. This makes dialogue with NPCs awkward, as the character you play doesn't say his or her line, while the NPC reacts to an unspoken line. It also gives a bad flow to the conversation, especially when characters you play as are voiced outside of these dialogue options. Luckily, after Mikhail, you play as Olga. She's a police officer with a military background, and the way she interacts with others shows that. Despite war breaking out, she's still trying to protect the civilians and guide them to safety. She's a simple character, but it works nonetheless. Then there is Leonid. He's the 3rd character you play as. He comes into the story almost halfway into the game. He's a ghost from the past, trying to clear his name for something that happened years ago. He's reckless and tries everything to obtain what he wants to clear his name. And again, just like Olga, it's nothing special, but it works fine. There's also an AI character called Koshka. She's basically your support throughout the game, but I think they went a little bit too far on the amount of support she provides.
Caution, the enemy is approaching. 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 Caution, the enemy is approaching.
If you ask me, that's just a little bit too much. But besides Mikhail, the main and side characters are decent. The voice acting is done fine and some even good. It's however a shame that this is where the good aspects of the game ends. In the months leading up to Left Alive, its gameplay was dubbed as stealth action survival, even compared to the likes of Metal Gear Solid. It would have been more fitting to compare it to Metal Gear Survive, as the quality of that game is on par with Left Alive. Stealth is nowhere to be found in this game. If the enemy doesn't see you, it's more likely that the AI bugged out instead of you using cover cleverly. But using cover is pointless, as the enemy spots you easier in cover than when you're out in the open. And when you finally manage to sneak up behind your enemy, you will be utterly disappointed to find out there's no stealth takedown. Again, no stealth takedown in a stealth focused game. Unless you call these ground takedowns stealthy. You have to equip a melee weapon and land a 3-hit combo before you knock down the enemy, so that you can finish the enemy off with a ground finisher. But landing these hits takes a lot of time, as using a melee weapon is slow and sluggish. It's also easy to miss your target, which most of the time means instant death. So I do not consider this as an alternative stealth takedown. So stealth is mostly off the table. So how about the action aspect? If I can't sneak past my enemies, I should be able to fight them. Well, that's where the next issue comes in. You do not stand a chance when you get spotted, because there's no way you can fight your enemies. The guns are the same as the melee weapons, but to add insult to injury, your bullets barely do any damage to your enemies. While in turn, the enemies need only a few hits to kill you. And as you die, you basically start the whole chapter from the beginning. Checkpoints are rare. They can be save stations on the map or cutscenes. But when you are in game and you want to go back to your last checkpoint or save, you really can't do that. There is no option for that in the pause menu. Only an option to restart the complete level. So you either have to restart the whole level or return to the menu to manually reload your last save game, or you just have to die and waste time on doing so to get to your last checkpoint. And even when you are back at your last checkpoint, you lost a lot of progress. Because of the bad stealth and action gameplay combined with the awful checkpoint system, dying is imminent. But not all deaths can be blamed on that. The map design plays a big role in this as well. With these large maps, you would think this would offer different paths to approach your target, but nothing could be further from the truth. There is only one correct path to take, but the game hides this by giving a false sense of there being multiple paths. So you get forced in these beating your head against the wall situations until by luck you find the correct way. Also, the story has no effect on the maps. For example, the main city map is used multiple times, but the effects of the war aren't shown over time. The only thing that changes is the main path by adding or removing some blockades. You could technically sneak past these blockades, but if you pull that off, it's because the AI bugged out, and even then it's not sure if you actually made progress with doing so. I was looking forward to the point where these Wanzer mechs would come into play. The game is clear from the get-go that the mechs aren't the main focus, which is fair enough, but when the state of the game is so boring and badly designed, I was desperate for something good. So when they mentioned that it was time to ride one of these mechs, I was getting excited. But first I had to take care of a small army of enemies between me and the mech. Knowing that stealth doesn't work, I thought this was going to be impossible. But then I started to look more into the gadget system. As you might expect by now, the gadget system is also broken. You got a lot of things to choose from, but only a few gadgets are actually useful. Mines and tripwires are a complete waste, as most of your targets are stationary and getting spotted to lure them into the traps doesn't work, as the AI is broken. But then I discovered the true power of smoke grenades. You just throw a couple of those near your enemies and all your problems are solved. They just run into the smoke like idiots, making it possible for you to just rush past them without them seeing you. Again, proving how stupid the AI is. But I finally got into a mech, and as it stood up, it really gave for a moment a good sense of weight and skill. The enemies seemed like ants and only other mechs could rival my power. Unfortunately, that's what it seemed like. The controls are clunky and aiming your gun has the exact same problem as the normal gunplay, so I prefer trampling on my enemies as they rather charge my mech than seek cover. But it didn't take long for an enemy mech to appear to go toe to toe with. I got to say that it's quite an achievement to make two giant mechs fight each other look boring. The AI controlling these mechs does basically nothing and just let itself be killed. Also, the moments you have with these mechs feels more like a real shooter section than an actual fight. This whole game is just one big disappointment, especially when you look at some of the ideas they had in mind for it. One of those ideas involves a multiplayer aspect. On the map you can see places where other players died. You can even recover their bodies to get small amounts of resources from it. However, this system is held back by the fact that map design and gameplay don't support it properly. If you had multiple paths to take, you would see which one is harder, or would give you a choice to take a risk and go to recover those bodies to get more resources. Having 3 characters with their own story while connected to a large story is also a good idea. As I mentioned before, the foundation for the story is good, but the gameplay pulls it down as there are large chunks of gameplay you have to bite through before you get to the story. Mixing stealth action with survival elements is very interesting. I mostly mean the gadget system with this. But just like with the other ideas, the game design itself doesn't support that. Overall, Left Alive is boring, frustrating and disappointing. The broken gameplay really ruins every good idea they put into this game. It's such a shame, as I was really looking forward to it. Unfortunately, in the end, I cannot recommend Left Alive. It has a lot of good ideas, but a bad execution. And that concludes my review of Left Alive. I hope you didn't play this game, but if you did, let me know down below what you think of the game. Thank you very much for watching, and if you liked this video, leave a like and consider subscribing. With that all being said, I wish you a good day, and until next time.